Hereby call this GPNA open session to special council meeting to order, held Monday, November 6, 2017 at 12:30, 5 p.m. Just a disclosure, pecuniary interest in nature thereof. See none. Closed session, not right now. Open session to, or calling it to order with a, we're going to please ask everyone to rise for a moment of silence and just please be seated. Just for the benefit of council, I plan on doing a Remembrance Day moment of silence when we do our GPNA. So, next is the open session, which we're in the disclosure of pecuniary interest. Just want to make sure I call for that again. Delegations, public meetings. Right now we have, next up is item 7, the draft municipal services agreement between OLG Gaming Corporation and the Township of Scugog, page 2 of your agendas. Mr. Paul Lohr is going to do an update. He's got a small presentation just to highlight some of the initiatives to date. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Lohr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as council will recall, in September 2016, OLG, that's the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation, assumed the conduct and management of the Great Blue Heron Casino facility. And at that time, the revenue sharing agreement between the township and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations ended. OLG then offered to compensate the township for municipal service for the casino and agreed to extend the revenue sharing for 12 months further, providing time to negotiate a fee for municipal for the service agreement related to the cost of the municipal services to the casino. That was from September 16 to September 17. Then an extension was granted in September to the end of 2017. That was provided to allow the negotiations to continue because they had not yet been finalized. As council will recall, the township retained Watson and Associates Economists Limited to assist with developing a fiscal impact assessment which outlines the operating and capital costs related to the service to the Great Blue Heron and the Mississaugan First Nation lands. That report was presented to council in May 15th, 2017. In the meantime, the mayor and CAO have had ongoing meetings over the past year with OLG officials and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations chief and council. A draft municipal service agreement between the township and OLG has been developed and is in the report before council, and I'll be reviewing as part of this presentation. The matter that needs to be next resolved is a reasonable annual fee for municipal services provided by the township to the lands of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. And over the last year, the mayor and CAO have been in discussions with Chief LaRocca and the Mississaugas with respect to this agreement. These talks are moving in a positive direction. However, as noted in the slide, the negotiations continue, and the Mississaugas have retained a consultant to review the fiscal assessment prepared by Watson and Associates. The township has also prepared a draft service agreement with the Mississaugas, and the that agreement is being reviewed by the Mississauga's legal representatives as well. The draft municipal service agreement that you have before you, some of the key points are starting in 2018. The first payment is in first working day in January. OLG will pay an annual fixed fee in the amount of $874,620, which will be indexed annually by the greater of 1.5% or the consumer price index. The payment schedule with respect to this fee will be 4 equal installments paid the first business day of April, June, October, and January. And I think, as you know, the provincial fiscal year starts in April. Yeah, a couple other key points in the agreement. Biannual meetings have been prescribed in the agreement. This is for OLG and the township to meet every 2 years to review services and service level commitments. And during that meeting, this applies to both parties, if they agree that a material change has occurred, the parties will negotiate in good faith and a new fee or fee structure will be established. This does provide an opportunity for the township to revisit this fee should there be an expansion to the facility that would necessitate further service coverage. Now, the term of this agreement is from January 1st, 18 to March 31st, 27, about 9 years, 3 months. And then there's an option that OLG may extend the initial term for additional terms of 5 years. The services to be provided: road maintenance services, and that's municipal road maintenance, plowing, sanding, grading, and ditching. And that applies to our roads and roads that would lead in any way, shape, or form to the casino. So it's really standard maintenance of our roads. Fire services and emergency response services, which have been provided for many years now. That does include fire suppression, fire prevention. And the level of the standard is just consistent with our current standards. And I think you recall we've just passed a road maintenance service level standard just this fall. In terms of financial implications for the township, the agreement with OLG will provide, as mentioned, an annual payment of $874,620 to the township for services for the Great Blue Heron Casino. The past agreement with the Great Blue Heron Charity Casino and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation averaged a little over $1.1 million annually over the past 5 years. So when you take what the township was receiving over the past 5 years on average, and you deduct the current payment, the $874,000 payment, it creates a shortfall of about $242,602 from what was received on average over the past 5 years. The report recommends that the township request the province to make up this shortfall, and those discussions will continue with the mayor and the province if council should approve that recommendation. In terms of communication, there's some key messages that were developed, provided to council. Our communication manager will be putting out a social media post following council's decision on this matter. And that we do have upcoming meetings with the Mississaugas being arranged. We're looking now near the end of November for the next meeting. And finally, staff do recommend that council approve the municipal service agreement. Our funding comes to an end at the end of the year, and we feel that the mayor and I strongly feel that we've negotiated the very best agreement. It's almost entirely in keeping with the Watson report, and our next step would be move forward with similar agreement with the First Nations community. And as you know, it's vitally important to the township to continue to receive these contributions from the casino. Without these funds, our ability to continue to provide the capital infrastructure projects will be severely diminished and may result in significant tax increases if we want to maintain that service. Mr. Mayor, that's my presentation and summary of the agreement before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allure. I just want to highlight that staff and Mr. Allure have spent a great deal of time in this process, and I want to thank you on behalf of council for all the work that's gone into this. And I know your experience with OLG coming from Ajax was instrumental in the relationships, etc. And so I'm very thankful for the results that you've come to date. So I have a mover and seconder for the recommended motion. Councillor Watton, moved by and seconded by Councillor Guido. Questions to Mr. Allure, to the report? Start with Mr. Kett, Councillor Kett, and then Councillor Guido and Councillor Back. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. My question is the extension. You have on your slide an extension after 2017, or 2027? Could you go back to that for me? Yeah, okay. I see that it's for, to extend the agreement, but I don't see any terms and conditions as far as the same terms and conditions or different money, or what is it? I mean, to have an agreement to extend is one thing, but I mean, if there's no terms to it, it doesn't necessarily have to be there, am I right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, firstly, there's, as I mentioned, a biannual meeting with OLG and the township where, should there be a change in the service level or some dispute about the service level, that itself could result in some change to the terms, either in our favor or not in our favor. I think most likely it would be in our favor because of the good possibility of an expansion at the casino site. This particular provision provides us with certainty for almost 10 years, and then the possibility for the term to be expanded 5 years. And when a term's expanded, I'm sure there could be a revisiting of the service level as cost as well.
I understand that. What I'm trying to get at is, and I realize that the terms and conditions can be amended from time to time, I guess yearly. But my question is, why is there a renewal? Is that when we renegotiate the amount of money? I mean, like, if we're amending terms and conditions all the way through, then should we put in that it's to renegotiate the money? The money wouldn't be renegotiated until 2027?
Well, if I could, Mr. Mayor, the funds that are included in this agreement are part of the agreement for almost 10 years. And then, yes, after those 10 years, at OLG's discretion, they'd have the opportunity of extending this term for an additional 5 years. And at that time, I'm sure there would be discussions into, you know, the service level, the costs, in a similar way as they were when this agreement was put together.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Guido?
Sorry, Councillor Guido, oh, you were looking at Councillor Back and said Councillor Guido, that was impressive.
I was looking to follow up the question.
I just have two questions to ask. You identified in your presentation as well as in the report that they have hired a consultant to scrutinize the Watson report. Do we know when that's expected to be back, the I guess, the update or outcome of their review?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Those discussions are ongoing, and they've not only, they hired a consultant to review the Watson report, they've also retained their lawyer to review the draft legal agreement, service agreement, and we're just now working on a date to get back together with them, which is looking like is going to be close to the end of November. Those discussions are moving a little slower than they were with the OLG group, and we're hoping, and I know the mayor and I have been pressing to have these wrapped up by year end. We're without an agreement with them, and we'd like to get that completed. However, we're really in the hands of the Mississaugas and the review that they're undertaking, and it could take a little bit longer. We may be into the new year before we have agreement.
Thank you. And further to that, Mr. Mayor, in the report it's indicating that you're in contact with MPP Anderson as well as the Minister and the Premier. What is Granville or Mr. Anderson's opinion on how successful we may or may not be in getting the additional top-up?
Right from the beginning, it's been a concern about the service agreement approach with OLG, that it wouldn't make us whole or come close. So it was, right from the early stages, a great deal of concern was expressed to our MPP and to the province, and they wanted us to get this done first and then look at the gap filling. Now, a politician, I can only say that Granville's been very receptive and says he's going to work very hard on our behalf to gap fill that with the province. The Minister of Finance and the Premier are aware of this effect, and so I'm hopeful that they will come through on that one. But until we get this signed, we can't move forward on the other initiatives, and we also we know that there's a provincial election coming up, so we want to make sure we tidy this up as soon as possible. Otherwise, things will be deferred, delayed, and we need to know where we are at for our operational budget, ideally.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm optimistic is how I could summarize
good.
that.
So if there's anything that this council can do to enforce it to our MPP or to whomever, then I would hope that there's something that is reached out to us to advise that we need to either contact MPP Anderson or if we need to send something as a resolution of council to ensure that we do get that additional funding.
And part of this motion that's on the floor involves that Premier Kathleen Wynne and Honourable Minister Charles Sousa be requested to commit to the province. So with this motion, we'll be including this as a correspondence to them to make sure that our follow-up meetings will include this desire for that. Councillor Bax, third up.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I'm just wondering, are there any provisions in this agreement contract with regards to what will possibly happen with the Pickering Casino now approved by the OMB? I know that there was an article today in the Star, and it sort of hinted at the possibility of Pico Downs and Blue Herring closing because of the Pickering sort of super casino. So is there any provisions in this contract, because it looks right now that it's saying to 2027, but is there anything in there to protect the township should they go ahead and close this location?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the matter of the Ajax Pickering and the future location of the casino really is independent to this agreement and to the independent in a way to the Great Blue Heron Casino. The proprietorship of this casino is tied to South Durham's Casino and Woodbine. However, trying to remember the name of the company that was created, Great Canadian Enterprise, Great Canadian Entertainment and Brookfield Properties, Inc., I believe is the name. They have been chosen as the operator for all three of those, and all that remains in South Durham is to choose the location. So how the business plan is developed is a matter that could affect this casino in terms of how many tables or slots are allocated. That's a good point, and a point we should consider. However, the Great Blue Heron has been identified as continuing as part of that location for casinos. So I think at this point we've got an agreement with OLG that is good for 10 years, and that will give us certainty for the next 10 years. And then at that time, we're renewing for 5 years, and I guess that will remain to see when that occurs. But right now, there's going to be a casino in South Durham, and actually hasn't been chosen in Pickering as yet. It's just that was an OMB decision with respect to the zoning and OP permissions in Pickering. The decision of the location is yet to be determined. They're still arguing the OMB decision with respect to Ajax Downs, and Ajax has appealed the decision of the OMB to the courts. So that matter hasn't been decided yet, is what I'm trying to say. But there will be a casino in South Durham. We're just not sure where. There'll be one in Woodbine, and there'll be one here.
So, I guess what I'm asking is then, in our 10-year agreement, is it guaranteeing us $871,000 for 10 years with cost of living? Or if they should go ahead within those 10 years to decide to close, is there provisions in this contract that protect the township?
If there is a reason to close and there wasn't a reason for the service to be provided, then that would be a reason that they could get out of the agreement, I would say. Right now, the biannual meetings are to assess the service level requirements. If the service level requirements changed, then the terms of the agreement could change also.
And one more question with regards to, I believe, the awarded operator. Again, in the papers with regards to connections, occurrences that are going on in BC with money laundering, is this still going to be going on with OLG as their preferred operator, or have they hammered that out? Just, those are concerns as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have not spoken to OLG with respect to that matter. However, I do understand the BC government is investigating that concern, and at this point, they have an agreement with OLG to continue, and the literature that's coming out from Great Canadian Gaming is saying that they're disputing all of this. So I guess it'll be a matter of the investigation and what comes out of that in BC.
But just to add to that, this agreement is with OLG, regardless of the operator that's there, so the municipal services. So, any other, Councillor Drew?
Thank you. I realize that the negotiations with the Mississaugas is ongoing and is confidential. So if you can't answer this is fine. Is this a service agreement and a financial agreement? And if so, where does that stand with the request to item number 4 to the province for the difference?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you for that. So I think if we were to reflect back, and the township was receiving a revenue share in the past, and that revenue share was as high as $1.8 million in year 2000, and then had decreased over time down to an average of about 1.1 million. That was a revenue sharing agreement. The revenue sharing aspect is gone. What has been replaced in its stead is a service agreement. A service agreement is what OLG proposed to the township rather than a revenue sharing agreement. And the service agreement, the cost of the service that the township provides to the casino, Watson and Associates had determined to be around $890,000, which upon review through OLG was determined to be the $874 that's before you. So it's for a different purpose now. Irrespectively, the township is short from what it was receiving on average over the last 5 years. So there's two things. One is trying to recoup that shortfall from the province in light of the fact that for many, many years the township received this benefit and has incorporated that into its budget. And then secondly, to recoup township costs for a service agreement with the First Nations community. First Nation is benefiting from services from the township, fire protection and road maintenance services. So it's a different revenue. It's paying for a service, and we're asking the province to make up the shortfall. That's how it's changed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay. Seeing none, I just want to, just before we vote on, just make some key points and some key messages. Well, you heard the report from CAO, and I just want to make it very clear and emphasize that we acknowledge the Mississauga-Saskatchewan Island First Nations community for their immense generosity of the funding from the Great Blue Heron Casino over the last 20 years. And as we all know, the financial contributions have been woven into the very fabric of our township and helped us achieve so much and contributed so much to so many capital projects and initiatives throughout the township. We have a great partnership with Mississauga-Saskatchewan Island First Nation. And it was that relationship with the Chief LaRocca that we discussed how appropriate it was to take the next steps in moving forward with solving our deficiencies in our budget that were going to be left behind by this new operator and modernization that the province had undertaken. With discussions with the chief and the agreement that negotiating directly with OLG to have the municipal services agreement, and with OLG that the new casino operators would have to be a part of. And we've done that with this agreement. And I also want to thank the OLG for working with us, and I reiterate that Paul's relationship from his past position at Ajax, one of the first things that Paul had said when we got together and sat down was, where's the agreement sit? And we need to call the OLG to get the meeting set up and find out the status of that. So I do thank the OLG for working so closely with the township and Mr. Allure and myself. Also agreeing the interim funding, because that was important for us as we went through our council budgets, that we needed some extension for certainty, and we had that initial year and then a continual 4-month extension from that deadline, so it helped us continue these negotiations. The service agreement that is before us right now, I feel is fair. It helps recover the costs that we have for providing those municipal services, such as the fire and the road maintenance. I also am very happy to see the fee increase of CPI, because we now have certainty that there will be an increase to inflation, and we have 10 years of certainty, the most certainty that we could negotiate anyways. As discussed already, regular contact with myself, MPP, Granville Anderson. We are going to be pursuing that next, and hopefully we can come back with some good news as soon as possible so that we can work those numbers into our operating budget. The Mississauga Squaw Island First Nation, we know that we still have to resolve a reasonable annual fee for the municipal services that we provide to the lands of the Mississauga Squaw Island First Nation, one that is fair, one that we can both justify to each respective residents. And then over the last year, we have met, as the CEO has said, with the chief there and the representatives, and we also would like to thank the chief for the time and negotiating a draft agreement. It's still ongoing. We have to further vet it on both sides, but we're happy to see that the discussions are moving forward, and we will very optimistic that we can come to an agreement in short order, but it is a process for many people's schedule to get them all involved, and we hope to have an OLG or an agreement with the province as soon as possible, along with the Mississauga Squaw Island First Nation agreement. And again, to sum it up, I mean, as a township, we benefit greatly from the success of the casino, the generosity of the Mississauga Squaw Island First Nation. We know the contributions that their Bagwadding Association that was set up for donations to the community, the funds that are received through the Mississauga Squaw Island First Nation, how we benefited in so many ways, and the direct contributions from the past contribution agreement was built into our budgets, and without those funds, we know the ability to continue to provide capital roads and infrastructure projects would have been greatly diminished. So we're happy that we have arrived an agreement to date with those parties, and we're optimistic that we'll come to an agreement with Mississauga in short order to make us whole again amongst the three parties. So I again sum up by thanking all those parties involved, and any final comments or questions anybody would like to make? Okay, so the motion's before us there with the agreement, the draft agreement. All those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And I need a mover and seconder for the bylaw that would be established, read a first, second, and third time for bylaw to authorize the execution of municipal service agreement between Ontario OLG and the Township of Squaw, moved by Councillor Watt, seconded by Councillor Kett. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for that, and thank you very much, Mr. Allure, for all the work and all the that. So I feel a big congratulations is in order for achieving that. Next up on the agenda, we have 6716, which is a bylaw to assume and dedicate as a public highway a 1-foot reserve on the west side of Steinway Drive, Port Perry, relating to Peter Dorothy Rabin, 580 Victoria Street, and a severance file, which was on page 59 of our agenda. I have a mover for the recommended bylaw. I need a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Watton. It was moved by Councillor Drew that the bylaw number 67-17 be read a first and second time. The bylaw be amended to add to the legal description the second 1-foot reserve legally described as Block 37, Plan 40M 2124, and the property identification pins for each block being pin 26782-0296 and pin 26782-0350, to clearly identify the subject lands, and that bylaws number 6717 be read for a third time, and finally pass the 6th day of November 2017, and the mayor and clerk are hereby directed to sign the same and affix a corporate seal thereto. Any questions on that? Councillor Watton.
I'd just like to explain to me how it's only 1 foot for... I don't understand the whole bylaw, so how did we get to that point?
So Diana, did you want to give a little
summary,
synopsis of this? I should have asked you anyways. It was just...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Watton, are you referring to, like, why is it only 1 foot and why isn't it 10 feet, that sort of thing? Or how it got there to start with?
Yeah, how come it wouldn't have been taken care of in the big picture?
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the 1-foot reserve was placed across this portion of the property because we were anticipating at one time, somebody would come in asking for a severance to create a building lot here. So the 1-foot reserve is placed across any land, not just this, through plans of subdivision, to prevent legal access onto the property until such time that we see a severance application and it's approved. And in this particular case, the developer, because he built the road and took the cost on for the servicing and the construction of the road, the applicants to have this lot severed have to pay him proportionately some money back, because without this road there, they wouldn't get the severance.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. And then we have a confirming bylaw. Confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Drew. We need a seconder for that. Councillor Guido. Confirming the proceedings of the special council meeting held Monday, November 6, 2017, read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 6th day of November 2017. The mayor and clerk hereby directed to sign, save, and affix a corporate seal thereto. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Final motion to adjourn our special council meeting, moved by Councillor Guido, second by Councillor Watton. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.